We have a Deputy State Secretary from the Ministry of Economics, Mr. Raimonds Aleksejenko. The floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I'm glad to be here, and today I have quite, well, a clicker. It would help. Great, thank you. The biggest problem for today is actually two, not to fall off, and a little bit too much to say. I will try to run through innovation system as we see it, and then try to look at how we as a government are trying to engage in innovation. So, Latvia, as you can see from, not from our perspective, but from perspective of somebody looking on us from outside, we are small but very efficient economy. Business environment is one of the tops in the world. Latvians don't think so, but World Bank thinks so. But we have to keep in mind that we have things to do in field of innovation. When we will be top 3 in innovations, then I will say that it's okay and we can talk about something else. Now we are in Europe, we are not the innovation leaders, but we have reached the level of moderate innovators. The biggest problems or challenges, to say better, where we have to look is linkages between companies, between all players, research system and financial models for research system, and firm company investment in research and development. Target. Our target as a ministry, we see for development of our economy, we see that to reach European average in, let's say, less than 20 years, we have to aim at 5% growth yearly. But this growth have to be balanced, so it have to be long-term sustainable. And we can look on this problem of growth from different angles, but we will see at the end that their solutions are quite similar. But what we are looking for, we are seeing that, generally speaking, what we want to develop is open, export-oriented economy, which is based not on increase of labor force, but increase in innovation. So increase productivity and aim to export. In our innovation system, we are basing our strategy on 4 basic targets. So, firstly, innovation system improvement, startup environment, cluster development, and design thinking. Innovation ecosystem, I think that you will see this nearly in each country. We are building on these elements. Clearly, education system, research system is the base for generation of new ideas. Policy, as we are, to increase or to decrease, actually, friction between all these elements. But the most important parts are access to finance, entrepreneurship, and research. And as you see these hands, these are points where we have to put our activities. This is cooperation between these 3 elements. So, crowded information, keep in mind that firstly, in nearly any country where I have been, the biggest challenges all the time is the same. So, investments of companies in R&D, research sector and business sector in any country, even, by the way, we were in Singapore, the point about their innovation systems, the weak point what they mentioned was big business and research sector cooperation. And so we have 2 levels of targets, or these fruits, what we want to achieve. Firstly, we have high level, where we are aiming at, as I already mentioned, we are aiming to be one of the leaders in Europe in innovation. But then there is technical, practical things what we have to do, and it is improvement of labor skills, modernization of infrastructure, it is increase in understanding about innovation, including in business, and so on. So to tackle this, from this slide, I want for you to just to remember that we have a lot of instruments, specifically in innovation sector, and during this conference and after the conference, you can just ask for Riga Technical University, Latvian Eastern Development Agency, Ministry of Education of Science, or Latvian Eastern, as I mentioned, Eastern Development Agency for possible support instruments. But they are divided, keep in mind, in two big blocks. Firstly, grant schemes, where you can get money for, companies can get money for development of new products, or in risk capital investment, where we actually can support business ideas by investing in the companies. And as you see, all landscape of innovation system is very crowded. So instruments are in place. Baltics and Scandinavia is one of the very active regions of startup migration. We are attracting quite a lot of new companies, and we have a good chance to be near our good neighbors Estonians, and only Estonians are a lot better in attracting new startups than Latvia, and we have been actually, from European Commission point of view, one of the best development sites for startups in Europe. As you probably, part of you knows that, at least Latvians, that we have approved, in 2016 we have approved startup law, but it is not just a law what makes our startup environment. Law defines on higher political level what is startups, but much more important for startup environment is business environment, where we have already for second year together with startup companies defining what improvements have to be made, and supporting instruments like risk capital instruments, accelerators, and subsidy schemes for small research projects. So in case of what we have in risk capital, as you can see, 3 new accelerators. In this sense, we are one of the first in Europe, and actually by this I can say, sorry Estonian friends, if you are there, then we beat you. We are first in this. Then we have access to 2 major risk capital funds and several activities, which is like startup forums in Baltics. And as a result, I would say that in fintech, from 10 best startups in fintech sector, 6 are coming from Riga. And as I mentioned, one of the basics for development is cluster support. So we are operating cooperating with 14 clusters, and I would say they are divided in 2 big groups. One is based on sector approach, which is like machine engineering and similar. And then, which I'm more proud of, is that we are moving forward from the sectoral clusters to cross-sectoral, and actually not only just locally cross-sectoral, but even in regional level, in Baltics or Scandinavia, they are becoming major players. And then the hard part to change to PDF, and I would like to go down to a very important part, what government is doing. There's 2 approaches. Why I said that I have too much to say is 2 approaches how we can look at innovation system. From one side, as I previously presented, it is based on possible available instruments. But it is, I would say, it is complicated, and quite often it is too general. So government started to engage in, starting from last year, in much more business-oriented activity. I will not come back that actually you are now in center of Baltics, the best connected place that we have here in Baltics. We have 6 million people, from which 300,000 are students, so you can actually tackle in quite huge pool of competencies. And it is the most easily done, can be done through Riga, because it's well connected in all possible ways, from starting from cultural, looking in history, and ending at physical connection. So if you want to come to Baltics, you always go through Riga. But what do government? So firstly, government did start one very interesting project, which is aiming at to become digitally driven nation. So we base this on 3 main criteria or pillars. Firstly, data democracy. So what we are talking about, we are opening up all public databases for reuse of data in such ways that businesses can tackle, starting from business register, ending at register of real estate, and build new possible products for the businesses. Secondly, citizen engagement. It is as much as possible involve citizens through IT systems in decision making and in planning of development. And thirdly, data-driven innovations, it's engagement with companies on possible projects, how to move forward. But this is not everything what government does. So from one point, this data-driven innovation concept, from other, we have already defined 5 spheres of specialization of our economy where we are moving forward. It is done specifically for structural funds, but it is used in day-to-day policy planning too. So there is a strong business environment, companies, strong research capacities in these 5 fields. It's bioeconomy, which includes forests, which includes food sector, biomedicine, smart materials, smart energy, and ICT. In these specific sectors, fields, we have players which actually can develop new products and can develop new businesses. Like, for example, in bioeconomy, there is investments in geospatial information systems, which can afterwards be used in several fields for resource planning, and so on. So it's in each of these sectors we have players which are competitive in specific fields. What we do next is we choose, we can build up from these competencies where we are actually leaders in let's say at least in Europe. We can build up several projects based on players. So in bioeconomy, we have built together with major players like Latvian State Forestry, like Orkla, which is a company here in food production, several spheres of focus areas where we work in genetics, wood chemistry, geospatial systems, and functional food. The same is precision medicine, where we have actually gathered together major players from the world like Microsoft, Roche, BGI, which are doing on our soil in Latvia. They're developing new products for the world. And the same is connected cars, where major players from in market develop test tracks for connected car development in the specific fields, and robotics in this specific case. So, just as an example from this precision medicine, how we see the development and how government involves in this. First, as I said, we have approached, identified several players, world leaders in specific fields, like Roche, which is developing new treatment for cancer, Microsoft, which is using artificial intelligence in medicine, and, for example, in this case, BGI, which is a genomics company, which is one of the producers of gene sequencers, and they all have development projects in specific spheres where Latvia is quite good. Like, we have very good developed or very lucrative legislation in field of genetic research. We have base for data analytics. We have gathered gene information for several years, and it is good base for data-driven analysis for new cancer treatments. So we build on these activities, and in 2018, 2 days ago, we were sitting together with leaders from these companies, from their headquarters, and developing steps how to move forward, where we actually, companies can benefit from developing their own products, and Latvian economy can benefit by being firstly testbed or sandbox environment for these new products. Secondly, research institutions can be involved in development of these new products. And thirdly, small and medium-sized companies and startups can actually gain access to large markets by tapping in these large companies, proposing and supporting these companies with their ideas in this specific field like precision medicine. And at the end, you can see that there is a win-win situation where large companies benefit from using Latvia as a testbed for their products. Small and medium-sized companies, as I said, can access to larger markets like using Microsoft network of Roche or network of BGI to access actually and sell their products to their clients. And thirdly, Latvian economy can benefit by direct research, involvement in research, so at the end building their human capacity and research capacity. So this is what we are building at the end. It is this cooperation model between large companies, local champions, startups, and academia, where government just play a role of enabling all this cooperation and supporting. And in most cases, it is not about great and large sums of money or subsidy instruments. In most cases, this model is working with business decision, like investments from the companies, and government role is much less in financial instruments, much more in creating environment and supporting cooperation models. Thank you.
Perhaps anybody has a question. We have a catch box. You can catch this thing and speak into it, so everybody can hear that. You have a question to the representative from the Ministry of Economics. Can you catch this one? All right.
How do I speak? Okay. So my question is, what are your plans on supporting companies that have passed this innovation phase for growth, like enabling Industry 4.0 or something like this? I mean, how can government help to grow?
Actually two fields where we are engaging now quite a lot. Yeah, you will have next question, it's clear. So actually the two fields where we are working. For small, medium-sized local companies, there is several needs which have to be tackled. Firstly, it's everything related to investments in actually industrialization and automatization. But and in this field, as you know, there is quite limited possibilities from government point of view just to subsidize it. It has to be done, at least till the 2020, it has to be done mostly by means of companies' their own capital. That's why we changed the legislation. That's why it's reinvested capital now is zero taxed. So companies can reinvest, can grow their capital and access finance through the banks. Second part, which is much more interesting, like we were, when we are talking with market leaders in Latvia, like for example UPB or Finiers, which is actually there is no possibility for them anymore to learn from local market. And when we talk with them, they need just one very important part. They need links to the market leaders, access to information how the, for example, Siemens is doing and investing in automatization, what they can do, and what is the practices. So this is part which we are starting now together, actually thanks to German-Latvian Chamber of Commerce, and we will do a lot of things this year in Hanover Mess, where we will meet and we'll try to start to establish these as an enabler, a government. We'll try to link these local companies, local champions, with large companies outside Latvia, which is actually, in major cases, they have similar problems. Sometimes they have already solutions, but sometimes it's just a way and road where they can go together and find out their own.
How do you link them? You try to link.
Yes, it's quite simple. We are going to the specific booth, ask Siemens representative guys, hi, we have development of this innovation system.
They say, who are you?
We are government.
All right.
Me, myself.
Okay. I'm the government of this tiny country called Latvia.
Oh, yes. I'm
Let's speak.
I'm deputy, yes. Yeah. And let's speak. And then we find out it's really all these nice things and systems. It's dead simple on the ground. You just talk with first person in booth. Then you find out that it's not first. Of course, you know who he is. You research background, what this company is. And then we find out possibilities, where these companies are moving, like Siemens, what they are doing in production fields. And then what we figure out deeper is what company breathes with. Figure out what is the specific persons to tackle to, and then if they are high enough, then we prepare presentation. Say our minister, we have to go to Siemens headquarters.
He said, oh, not again. Another presentation. He says like
he's willing. He just opens and says, then Raimonds present it.
You grab the template of the presentation, just change the date and you go.
And then we go together with local company, UPB, and sit down with Siemens representatives. It's actually have already several times have worked. As I said, Microsoft, Roshan, BGI. We started with very negative approach, saying that guys, they know everything. But at the end, when we talk with Microsoft, genetic research team, then appears that even this small company can do some good for this company, and there is mutual interest. So it's always works. It always works. This simple thing always works.